Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm absolutely shitting it being up here. It's the first time I've seen anybody like this in 2 years. So thank you all for coming out tonight. It's absolutely amazing to see you all. And thank you to everybody on the live stream who's joining in as well. I hope you enjoyed tonight, and I hope the stream holds up. Fingers crossed. We've got Tommy on the desk who's managing it all, so big, quick round of applause for everybody here for Tommy, who's going to do an amazing job. So, unfortunately, we have had one speaker pull out tonight, so it's going to be a slightly shorter evening, but it does mean we're going to have more time for Jen's panel later on, which should be a good one. So, I'm your host, Giorgio Cassella. I'm the Marketing Director at Evoluted, who are the organisers and sponsors of Sheffield DM. We started this around 3 years ago now, as an effort to kind of bring together the marketing community in Sheffield and beyond, to kind of network, meet each other, have some fun, learn a bit more, and just kind of get some good knowledge going. You can tell I'm nervous, can't you? Bloody hell. I'm really looking forward to tonight. There's going to be an amazing couple of speakers. We've got first up Charlotte Crowther, who I'll introduce you to in a minute. We've got a panel talking about the client-agency relationship, which is sure to be brilliant. And we're finishing off with Ash Billinghay from Rise at 7, giving us an amazing content talk too. There we go. I hope you've all been given your drinks tokens. If you haven't got one, wait until the end of the first talk. Go and find one of us guys with our badges on, and we'll surely give you one. There's a bar outside. Once you've used your token, you can still go and get more. Please support the showroom workstation. They've been closed for a long time, just like other businesses around here. So buy some drinks, enjoy yourself, make sure to network here as well, and please do come and say hi to all of us tonight too. Kind of forgot what else I need to say. I've got to say thank you as well, actually, a big thank you to Ash and Evoluted for sponsoring all of this too. Without them, this wouldn't happen. They've been footing the bill for the last 3 years for all of our events. They've been doing an amazing job, all of the team here. We've got Jen, we've got Dec, we've got Ash in the back, we've got Liam floating around somewhere, we've got Jay Hodge somewhere, we've got Joe, who's been doing a brilliant job greeting people on the door. Thank you guys. Without you, this wouldn't have happened either. And of course, thank you to the workstation for hosting us and putting it on. It's a lot quieter here than it was at the Sheffield Tap, and if anybody joined us there, you remember the horrible screeching noises of the trains pulling into the station, and the rather loud bar patrons too. I guess I'll shut up and we'll get on with it, and I will introduce you to Charlotte. So Charlotte, if you want to come and join me on the stage. So, I asked her a minute ago and I've lost it already, but please welcome Charlotte Crowther, who is Digital PR Manager at Kaizen.
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, thank God for that. And yeah, Charlotte, I'm not going to waffle on for too long, so I've got you a clicker that should work, theoretically. Yes, amazing. So I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad you said that you're shitting it, because I am too.
Oh my God, I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm going to have to go and get a drink in a minute and calm down, but after Charlotte's talk, there will be time for Q&A, so please save your questions. We'll ask them all at the end, and then we'll have a short 10-minute break so you can refresh yourselves, grab another drink, nip to the loo. Speaking of which, that's what I forgot. If anybody does need to use the bathroom while you're here, out the doors, behind reception, there is a door that takes you through to a couple of bathrooms there. So, yeah, take it away, Charlotte. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, so I'm Charlotte, and today I'm going to be talking to you about what we as digital PRs can learn from traditional PR. So in order to kind of understand why I'm talking about this, just wanted to introduce myself. I actually graduated from Nottingham Trent University doing broadcast journalism about 2.5 years ago. I went straight into an agency based in Nottingham, which was more of a hybrid agency, but I was mainly working on traditional PR. And since then I've joined Kaizen in December and been working in digital PR ever since. So if I'm talking about digital and traditional PR, we first of all need to understand what on earth is the difference. So the drum says traditional PR describes strategies that gain brand coverage in print, including newspapers and industry-specific magazines, as well as on traditional broadcasting channels such as TV and radio. So from my experience, traditional PR is all about working with a brand and getting that brand out there by the main kind of formats of TV, radio, and traditional PR, traditional print coverage, be that newspapers or magazines. So as a traditional PR, this is the kind of coverage that we would love to get. We've got spokespeople here on BBC News and Sky News. We had some spokespeople on radio, such as Radio Jersey and Times Radio. And we also had print coverage in the Daily Express and House Beautiful. Whereas digital PR, by contrast, encompasses online marketing strategies to boost a brand's presence and visibility. Now, to you and I think digital PR, when we boil it down, comes down to links. As a digital PR, the coverage we want to get is coverage such as this. Follow links from highly relevant websites with high DRs. There's a conversation going on at the moment, is traditional PR dead? When you see statistics like this, such as UK national newspaper sales have fallen by nearly 2/3 over the last 2 decades, you can understand why this conversation is happening. However, there's also other information out there, such as radio is the most trusted medium in Europe for the 10th year in a row. So traditional PR isn't dying, it's just diversifying. And as a digital PR, when we're working on clients, there's sometimes a bit of a conversation going on when you've got traditional PRs who are perhaps holding back on the media lists, they're not allowing you to be as creative as you want, and it can be a bit annoying as both a digital PR, and I'm sure traditional PRs feel the same way. But we need to be able to work together in order to achieve the client's goals. We all work in PR, which means that we're all wanting the same aim. When I look back at kind of my work, I boil it down and there's 4 areas that we can learn from: relationships, product PR, spokespeople and formats. So this is what I'm going to talk you through. So first of all, relationships. Traditional PRs have had to be good at relationships. Traditionally, they've been working for local brands who want local coverage from local journalists. But as we all know, there's only so many journalists in one patch. So you've had to build the relationships. Whether that's going out for a nice coffee, taking them out for a meal, you've had to know what's relevant. So that's something we can learn from them. And ultimately, it comes down to prospecting. We've all seen the tweets, such as this one by Sian Elvin from the Metro, who's saying that she's getting so many different emails from PRs every single day. We want to make sure that the prospecting that we do and the media lists we build are highly relevant to our client and the kind of coverage we want to achieve. Ooh. When you sign a client, my suggestion is to build a list of dream journalists. Contact these dream journalists and introduce yourself, introduce your new client, and introduce what they do, what topics that they'd be willing to talk about. This means that you're starting the relationship from the very beginning. Once you've got the foundations of that, that's when you can build on it. And ultimately, if the journalist also reciprocates that, they'll be the one coming to you asking for coverage, asking for indexes, asking for comments. And that really is a digital PR's dream. Secondly, let me move back over this side. Product PR. We've all seen these kind of things when we pick up OK Magazine, Hello, even sometimes the newspapers. These product gift guides do really well, and that's why we also see them as digital. So first of all, you need to know your products. Talk to your clients, say, what are you wanting to push? If you've been given specific keywords to work towards or to point your links to, think, is there any products that our client offers which we can direct those links to? Secondly, do your research. Like I've just shown you, there's so many different websites, there's so many different pages out there, rundowns such as the best 10 sustainable products on the market right now, even Christmas gift guides. I've got 2 images here. Christmas gift guide requests are coming in already. So use resources such as Haro, which is a free resource, Response Source and Journal Requests. These are things that journalists use to be able to put out some requests, such as this one saying, I'm looking to hear from the Irish companies RE Gifts for Children. If that was one of my clients, I'd be replying straight to Jen and saying, hi Jen, this is my client, these are the products that I think would be great for you, and I'd make sure that I was sending images, the links to the pages, and also the RRP. Then on to spokespeople. This is something which traditional PRs, again, they've had to do it. They need to know whether they've got people out there who are comfortable going in front of a TV camera. They need to know if they're people who are willing to talk on a radio. So you need to find your spokespeople. Again, this is a conversation that you can have when you first sign a client. Just have a chat with your main contact and say, look, is there anyone within your company who would feel comfortable giving quick reactive quotes if a journalist requests for it? On what topics are they willing to talk about? Create a quote bank. As we all know, reactive PR is becoming such a big thing since the pandemic. News is breaking all over the place, and if you've got a quote bank with quotes which have already been pre-approved by a client, as soon as news breaks, it means that you can jump straight onto the back of it. And also as this, make a press pack. Make sure you've got headshots and short bios about all of the spokespeople in the company who are willing to talk. And then, like I just said, when news breaks, you don't need to wait for the lengthy emails for clients to approve the quotes. Talk to them, come back, make sure there's any amends. It means that you've got them there ready to go as soon as you see a journal request come through, or as soon as you see a relevant topic that you can jump on the back of. And then finally, formats. Traditional PRs need to know their formats. They need to know whether a story is best suited for TV. Is it visual? Is it best suited for radio? Is there someone who's really great and will be able to talk to people and build that relationship? Or is it just some news which will work best for newspaper? Even better, is there a way that we can adapt this one story to suit each different format? And that's something that we should also be doing. The ideas should fit the format. So this is some of the examples of formats we use at Kaizen. So this is a listicle which was talking about 5 ways to safeguard your contactless cards and digital wallets. This gained 4 follow links and 8 pieces of coverage, which is great. It only probably took us half a day to write up the listicle, get it approved and start outreaching. And I don't think 4 follow links are bad for half a day's work. Secondly, infographics. These are slightly bigger, it involves design and it involves data cards. This was a piece we did for our client Reebok. It was a cross-market campaign across 6 different markets, and we got 55 follow links and 90 pieces of coverage. The key thing with infographics is make sure that you're not creating it just for the sake of creating it. If you can say exactly the same thing in a blog post with a table, they're going with that. But if you've got lots of data and you think it will be more user-friendly to display it in a nice way, such as this, then go for it. And then finally, interactives. These take a lot more time to build out. You need to involve developers, designers, and some people may say that it might be a bit of a waste of time if you're building all of that and you're spending longer time on it, but then not getting as much as the reward. This piece that we did for Lens Store got 14 follow links and 29 pieces of total coverage. What we did was we had an interactive piece from 7 of the most well-known views in the world, and there was a drop-down at the top left there where users could click through to some different experiences to experience what these sites would be like for users who have a visual impairment. It was everything from colour blindness to tunnel vision. So what that's showing is that there's 3 different formats there. They all got great follow links, they all got relevant coverage, and they also all got high amounts of total coverage. You need to make sure that you're choosing the right format for your ideas. So, to summarise, what are the 8 key points that I think you should take away from this? For relationships, prospecting is key and contact your dream journalists. Make sure you're building those relationships from the off. For product PR, know your product and research your product gift guides or product guides. There are so many product guides out there. Build a list of them all. Go back to journalists if there already is a list out there and say, are you planning on refreshing this? I've got a great product which will fit into this. It's surprising how often journalists do refresh these gift guides. Spokespeople, know who they are, create a quote bank, make a press pack and be ready to go. And then finally, the ideas should fit the format. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Okay, if anybody has any questions, please shout them out and I shall repeat them as best I can for the live stream. Not passing mics around tonight just because COVID. But yeah, thank you so much, Charlotte. Questions? We've got one over here.
Great presentation, I loved it. So you mentioned that most of these journalists are getting a lot of emails, obviously. What is the best way to stand out amongst all the emails that they're getting? And what's the best way to communicate with them? Is it email or social media?
Yeah, no, of course. So first of all, you said that journalists are getting a lot of emails, and how do you stand out? This all comes down to prospecting, really. You want to make sure that you're going to the right journalists. There was a tweet recently about a journalist saying that they saw a great press release. I think it was something to do with dogs, but then they worked in tech. So like, great press release, but I'm not going to be able to do anything with that. So you need to make sure that you're that you've got the right journalists. But secondly, you need to make sure that you stand out. It's all about the headline. When you see so many different unread emails, you want what's going to catch your eye. Is it an exclusive? Is it a crazy stat? Is it a product day or an event, a day that you can latch it onto, such as Halloween? So you want to be able to do that. And what was the second part of your question, sorry?
What's the best way to communicate with them? Is it
So at Kaizen, we do tend to stick to emails and then use Twitter for things such as journal requests. If we've seen a journalist put a tweet out on Twitter, then we probably tend to reply to them through that. I know that there is a bit of a discussion in kind of the digital PR world at the moment, with some people are saying that they're seeing a lot of results from Twitter. So I think you need to really vary it up and see what works best for specific journalists.
Thank you.
Do we have no more questions from the audience? No more questions? After such an amazing talk and nothing to ask, really? There we go, there's one.
This is intense. Hi.
Not as intense as being up here, I can assure you.
So I've recently joined a startup, and we're just kind of starting to think about, you know, PR for the product, the app that we're doing and stuff. What is your kind of top advice for someone literally starting out? Where do you start? Where's the best place to find journalists that are kind of most appropriate, I guess, for your product or brand?
So the best place to find the journalists is to think, where are your users, where are your customers, where are they going to be? You want to target the journalists who are going to be writing in those publications. And again, I would say that it's all down to the product. What's your USP? What are you talking about? And also, it's sometimes interesting to kind of take a step outside of that. So for example, for Reebok, for example, you may be a sports brand, but then take a step outside of that. We can talk about fitness, we can talk about different lifestyle matters. So sometimes it can be really good to be really niche and really focused on your product, but then sometimes don't forget about the added extra expertise that you can give to different other breaking stories as well. So I guess that's an answer in two halves. Either be really niche or take a step back and see what added value you can add.
Do you find that you're going back to the same journalists quite often for repeat stories or different angles when you've kind of got a similar, obviously, industry that you're working within, and you're building up relationships with those journalists, or is it very much you kind of look at what journalists will be best for each story, kind of quite ad hoc?
I think it's different. It can be quite ad hoc. If you've started building up that relationship with a journalist and you know what they will like and what they won't like, then there's no harm in going back to them and saying, hey, thanks so much for using this story. We've actually got something new that we've done similar kind of research for this brand. Would this be of interest to you? It's all about relationships. If they've already used your story, follow up with them. Say, thank you so much for using this. This is another idea that we've got. Or, thank you so much for using that. A few months down the line, hey, blah-de-blah, like, I know that you use this story. Does this sound of interest to you?
Hi, I'm Charlotte. What's been the most difficult product or, assignment you've gotten that you thought, oh gosh, this is going to be really hard, but you really did successful in the end?
So I think that's quite difficult because working in an agency, we obviously have such a broad range of clients, and sometimes you're jumping from lens store, which is health, to I've got VPN and tech clients. So I think for me the main kind of hurdle, the thing that I find difficult, is being able to build these relationships in such a broad spectrum in so many different niches. And I actually have a list of my go-to journalists. So if I have started building a relationship with someone, I'll put this on my list and put in the niche. And it means that if I start working on a different client within a similar space, I can go back and say, we've spoken about this. So I think having a list of kind of go-to friendly journalists definitely helps with that.
There's one more question over there. Sorry, live stream, I'm a disembodied voice right now running around the place.
Thank you. Hi, you've mentioned kind of Twitter as a great resource in terms of getting a prompt from what journalists want. Beyond that, what are your kind of top tips in terms of content ideation or the ideas that you're putting out in a press release or digital PR? Where would you kind of start with that? And then also, how do your approaches differ in terms of digital PR and traditional PR?
That's a great question. So ultimately it all comes down to ideation, doesn't it? This is a great question. Different people, different agencies, different in-house people all have different kind of ways that they start ideation. Personally, I like to have a look on the client's website. I'm going to go back to the product again, have a look on their blog, see what they're willing to write about, and see what other news is out there in their space. And then I do think social media is a great way to be able to look at that, see what's trending, because if people are talking about it, then that means that they're probably willing to write about it. And if people are talking about it and just starting to talk about it, you can prepare something and get it out there just kind of as it comes to its peak. And then what was the second half of your question, sorry, about traditional and digital?
So in terms of your approach with content ideation, do you have a different approach for those two kind of outlets?
Yeah, so again, it all comes back down to the ideas should fit the format. So if you've got a great idea, it can be quite a similar idea for both traditional and digital, but you then need to take that step back and go, right, would this be suited for TV, radio or magazine, or would it be more suited for a listicle, an infographic, a reactive commentary? So it's all led by the ideas, and then that's when you get other people involved. They can kind of help scope it out, see what they think would fit, and then go from that point. So it's very similar processes, which is why I wanted to do this talk, because traditional PR and digital PR do have very similar processes, but it's just about how we use it, and ultimately comes down to the format.
Lovely, thank you.
Any more questions? One at the back.
Thank you. Oh, it's weird holding a microphone. Basically, I have a client that works in a niche that doesn't particularly suit well with media publications because of the product. They work with cream chargers, so obviously there's a lot of news around like the misuse of it. So we're trying to avoid publications because it often spins it into a negative context. So is there any advice sort of going a bit more niche or pulling into the more cooking side of it, something that would take away from the actual product?
Yeah, so something like that is what I was talking about earlier. I would take a step back. So if they don't want to talk exactly about their product offering or even that specific industry, what else can they do? As PRs, we're able to talk about so many different things as opposed to just marketing. We can talk about the media industry, for example, which although that isn't our direct day-to-day job, we've got expertise in that and we would be able to talk about that. So it's about thinking about that with your client. Take a step back and see where they've got commentary and where they can give added value to other discussions going on.
Yeah, that's great, thank you.
Thank you. There was one more question here, one over there. Don't worry, we'll get round to you. Going to get cozy here.
I was just wondering what KPIs you use, how you're actually proving your success to your clients.
Is that for my previous traditional PR or what we're doing now in digital PR?
For both, really.
Okay, so ultimately it does all come down to coverage, and it all comes down to the client as well. Some clients, for digital PR, for example, they might want to see boosts in the SERPs, but others might just want to get their brand out there in a slightly perhaps more traditional PR kind of view, that they just want to get the coverage and get the brand name out there. And again, it's the same thing for traditional PR. Obviously, it comes down to the client. If they've got something hyper-local and there's an event going on that they'd love to see, for example, East Midlands Today at, then that could be their KPI. But then if they also just want to get their brand out there in relevant newspapers, I don't think you can really talk about KPIs as a whole specifically, because they're all so niche to the client's individual needs.
Thank you.
Running round, gonna have to take the long way. Getting my steps in tonight.
So we've got quite a lot of clients who we do more sort of traditional PR for, but we probably would see the benefit of digital PR, but they're quite traditionalists. So I suppose it's a question around how can we help sort of convince them that actually digital PR is just as valuable as actual traditional. I think for a lot of them, they see if it's in the paper, it counts. If it's online, it doesn't. So yeah, any kind of tips on helping us kind of have those conversations a bit better about how to see the value in it?
I think it goes back to one of the first stats that I showed you about newspapers are 2/3 in decline in the past 10 years. But then also if you look at the stats in kind of the digital space, they're all increasing. And a lot of the things that traditional PRs do, and if they're getting the stories out there, there probably is somewhere and there is a place in the digital PR world, like in the digital sphere. So it's not so much as having the conversation saying we need to completely rip up the rule book and ignore everything we're doing, But I guess to kind of start initially bringing up the conversation, what you're working on in traditional, do you think that there is a place in the digital PR world? Is there like the perfect hole for that piece of traditional PR just to slot in there and just make that a smooth transition, so it's not jumping from traditional PR straight to digital, it's kind of using what you've done and broadening it out and making sure that you're making it work as hard as it possibly can?
Great, thank you.
Any last questions? No hands in the air? I think we're done.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, we're going to have a break in a minute, but first I wanted to do a quick straw poll with everybody because I'm nosy and I want to get to know you all. Quick show of hands from everybody. Who have we got that is agency side tonight? A lot of agency people in the audience, wow. Hands down. How about in-house marketers? Not as many, but I love you all. Do we have anybody in the house who is not in marketing and just felt like, hey, I'm going to come down, I'm going to be nosy? There's a few. Yeah, more of you than there are of the in-house marketers. Amazing. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I can't believe that first talk is already done. Charlotte, you were absolutely amazing. Give her another round of applause, please. So up next, a quick 10-minute break. Grab yourself another drink, pop out for some fresh air, have a bit of a chit-chat, go and assault Charlotte and ask her even more questions that you didn't want to ask in front of everybody else. And we will see you at about 6 o'clock, where we will be hosting the Q&A panel on client-agency relationships. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, here we are for part 2, the Q&A panel. If I could ask you all to take your seats, please. A couple of dawdlers still out by the bar, but we'll get started. All good? No AV problems now? Brilliant. Okay, a little bit longer than planned, but hopefully everybody had time for a quick break, grab a fresh drink, have a bit of a chit-chat. I'm not going to stay up here for long because you're all tired of seeing me by now, but what I would like to do is ask you to give a big round of applause to Jen Penaluna, who is going to be your moderator for tonight. Jen is one of my colleagues at Evoluted. She's absolutely fabulous. So, yeah, lots of claps.
Everyone, thank you for having me. We're going to do a panel on agency and client relationships. So we have people from agency side and also someone from client side, so we get to see the best of both. So I know there's not many in-house marketers here tonight, but we still get to see what the client actually feels about our ways of working. So if everybody else wants to come up in a second, we've got, oh, Tom's really eager. So we've got Emma. Emma's going to sit next to me. Emma's client lead at Rise at 7. Guessing there's a few people from Rise at 7 in the house. No. We've got Adam Reaney from SEO Works, Client Services Director. And last but not least, even though we've plonked him on the end, is Tom Richardson from Irwin Mitchell. So, do you want to tell me a little bit about, or everybody, a little bit about you, Emma, specifically?
Hello, everyone. Hello? Yes, okay, it is. Hi, everyone. I'm Emma Singleton. I'm currently a client lead at Rise at 7. Born and raised in Sheff. Love it, hate it in equal measures sometimes, mainly love it. Yeah, that's me.
I think we do. Maybe it's me. I feel very echoey. It's a bit loud. There we go.
Hi everyone, my name's Adam Reaney. I'm the Client Services Director at SEO Works. So I've been here, like Emma, I'm born and bred in Sheffield as well. It's the hills, isn't it? That's the problem. It'd be perfect if it was a bit flatter. But yeah, I've been in the industry for about 8 years, so I'm Client Services Director, so my responsibility is making sure all the clients are happy and all the guys in the SEO team have what they need to do the job.
Hello everyone, I'm Tom Richardson. I'm SEO manager at Irwin Mitchell, work in-house and have done so for nearly 8 years. Born and bred in Suffolk, sorry to ruin the set. We've worked with agencies throughout that time, so yeah, really looking forward to this.
If it makes you feel any better, I'm from Barnsley, so not Sheffield, so yeah, sorry, woo! So we're going to have a chat through the client and agency relationships, and we're going to treat it as any other relationship. So how do we develop that relationship? How do we maintain that relationship? And the hurdles that we do have the hurdles, let's not lie. So it's not going to be client bashing. I know we sometimes like to do that, but we're going to get Tom's perspective as well on how he likes things to be done with him. And then also, how we handle things and just different agency perspectives, because everyone does things differently. So we'll get stuck into it. So starting with developing the agency relationship, we're going to talk about what is the thing that makes a good relationship. Like, I know that's a really open-ended question, but who wants to go first on what makes the best relationship?
So for me, I think the most important thing when I'm dealing with clients is just to remember that they're human. I think that there is a lot of kind of divide in kind of, we work on the client side and then we've got an agency that does this, an agency that does that, and actually the best way to bring everyone together is to just treat them as humans, treat them like you would want to be treated yourself, and be kind and understand them a little bit. There's a really horrendously awful Instagram handle called Agency Insider. Don't know if anyone's heard it, and it's literally all the network marketers, network agencies, sorry, and they send in these things, and it's like, client messaged me on my wedding day expecting something. Client messaged me as I was giving birth, and that I've never personally had that experience, but it does go on. And I think just remember that people are human at the end of the day. Is my thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's important. It's obviously I think the thing for me is clarity. Agency side, you can get a bit lost in talking about the jargon and sending stuff over and just expecting the client to know what it means. A lot of the time they may not be marketing managers, or they may not be sort of au fait with the language. So just having that interaction, that conversation about what it actually means in reality can go a really long way to building that trust as well and developing that relationship.
You, Tom, what makes a good agency relationship for you? What are the good ones doing?
I think people that are willing to answer emails on their wedding day or while giving birth. No, I think it's a partnership, and I think this is often what gets lost, and it becomes a kind of us and them battleground sometimes, and it needs to be thought of like that. I think when we look at agencies, we're looking at the people, and I think often what gets lost in agencies is so caught up in the brand of the agency that you forget about the real commodity of what you're selling is the people, and when those people change, that's quite a big deal for us in-house. So that's the key thing for me. It's a human relationship. It's you need to be able to work with the people, and like any relationship as well, the thing that's constant with it is things change, and it's managing that change in a way that's good for both parties.
That's a really good point, and you've come on to a question I had a little bit later on, so you're ruining my running order, but we'll live. So in terms of when people leave an agency, because we're literally in the middle of the Great Resignation and all that, it's never been such a good time to move jobs, to get something that really resonates with you and your values. So it's inevitable that people are going to leave agencies, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just people want different things. So in terms of an agency, how do you handle that? There's that sort of panic mode of, oh God, so we need to assign a new client lead, but also from the client's point of view, how do you feel about that? Is it a really worrying thing if it happens just once, or is it just treated as one of those things? If you want.
So agencies, you all change jobs every 6 months. We know this, and you all go to another agency that's just down the road and then return to pitch to us. I think what it's true though, isn't it? It's true, yeah. I think the thing that I would say to all agencies is about how you manage that change with your client, some serious thought as to who's going to fill the shoes of the person who's leaving. And sometimes I think a bit of honesty will go a long way. We need to recruit someone. We haven't got the person right now. I'm going to put my hands up. We haven't got the person. It's going to take us 3-6 months. We haven't got a person, but in the meantime, we're going to give you these 2 people who between them can cover that role. But it's not a longer term solution. That you're important to us. We're going to cover it. I think at the moment what's happening, and we've first-hand experience of this, is obviously the agency marketplace is very very buoyant at the moment in terms of people coming and going, and it might be your whole team has left. That's really problematic, and if it's not managed well, then you can lose that client. I think honesty is where it starts, and when you're coming back to a relationship and a partnership, you need to be honest about how that's going to work. We're going to lose all these people, but maybe that's an opportunity to build a better team for you. something that more reflects where you are at present rather than where you were 6 months ago.
On agency side, want to talk about how they handle that?
Sure, I'll jump in. I think it's, from our perspective, agency side, it's not always that easy to recruit for something like that, but sometimes there's somebody who's a really great fit on paper, but they just don't get on. It can just be personal reasons, or they just clash for whatever reason. So from our side, trying to facilitate that and making sure that there is as much crossover as possible. So when somebody new is coming on, the outgoing account manager has a chance to introduce and speak to the client as sort of face-to-face or person-to-person or video-to-video as it is these days. But they have a chance to learn how your relationship was, so they can see that kind of relationship and how it develops. Sometimes, like you say, you just don't have the right people, and that's where honesty is so important for that. And but also the flip side is recruitment isn't always that simple. It's not always easy to just bring someone in who's the perfect fit. So it's like reaching a middle ground, isn't it, really, on somebody you're happy with, but also we're happy to provide that service for you as well. But it's such a difficult question to deal with.
I don't know how else to phrase this without swearing, but is that, like, can you tell when you're being bullshitted as a client? Like, if it's like...
Yes.
Yeah. Really is best just to be upfront and honest, because I've been there as well, where I've been the, like, person in the middle, like, I'm leaving, I know I'm leaving, I know I've got great relationships with clients, the agency doesn't want to upset that relationship with the client, and how do we manage that before you get somebody in place? Because I get ideal scenario is I'm leaving, but we've brought on such and such, they're great, here's all their experience, they're going to get to grips with your account, I'm going to speak with them personally. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's a case of I've written you up a document and hopefully it explains everything, but I've gone now, I've started a new job. So you can tell.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the client. I mean, I can tell. I don't know. I think you just have to be transparent about it. I think being honest, the thing that I dislike is where, you know, somebody's handed in a notice and you perhaps only find out like a little, you know, a few weeks in advance for that very reason. You know, people are concerned about the relationship and concerned about keeping that client. Obviously, there are bad clients as well. You know, there are you know that will kick off, and I'm sure there are that don't kind of see the reality of things. But often it can lead to something a lot better or different. You know, I can think of, and you know, we've been through many sort of teams in our time, sort of in the last 8 years, even within the same agencies, and people that are still at the agency but have moved across to other accounts. And you kind of always look back at your kind of dream team of the people that were the best. And I can think of a few times when people left and I've been really anxious about it and thought, this is going to be terrible. It's going to be, you know, this person's not going to fly. They're not going to work. And actually, they've been better. So, you know, I can think going back maybe 5 or 6 years, we had quite a kind of senior account person get a promotion and kind of move off the day-to-day of the account, and in place we had kind of a quite junior account exec, but actually that was an improvement. You know, we got someone who was more responsive, who was very, very good, understood the business naturally, and it worked better. So actually all that anxiety was for nothing, but you know, it's only human to kind of have those thoughts with change.
I think for me there's 2 points with this. I think number one, I always try to kind of introduce my clients to the wider team. So there's one in particular where I was at J-Wing, I'm going to say it, I was at J-Wing, and this particular client absolutely loved the creatives that we were working with, the leads on the account, and they bought into us as a team. So therefore, when I left J-Wing last September, yes, it was a loss, and she moaned it, but she also had the other two that she knew her brand really well. They knew everything that was going on with the account, as much detail as I would. So for me, that diversification across, so you're not just reliant on that person, is really important. And then also the other thing I'd say is everyone starts somewhere. So, you know, just because they're new doesn't mean they're going to be rubbish. And it also, to your point, doesn't mean that they're going to be any worse than the person that's left. Any worse than the person that's left. So it can be a really positive thing.
That's a good point. So in terms of actually choosing the person that's going to work on the account, so sometimes I appreciate you can pick and choose, especially if you're having to recruit for somebody leaving, but if you do get to pick and choose, so you can allocate certain people to certain accounts, how do you go about picking who would be best suited to that?
So some sectors it's easier than others. Some people have a natural interest in something and it's just a natural fit. You know, if somebody's passionate about something, they're going to do a better job. Some clients, some account managers, the chance to work on a client is like a dream client. It's amazing. Some industries aren't that exciting. I mean, let's be honest. So you have to find someone who's passionate about what they do with regards to, does the campaign require more content work? Is it going to require more technical work? Is it going to need that personal touch or more digital PR kind of approach? So you need to look at the team and figure out which are the best people in the team for that. Not to say keep them in reserve, but you sort of know those strengths and weaknesses in the team so you can match the clients that come in. Yes, if it's a passion project for them, but also so they can match their strengths and weaknesses as well.
Client, how important is that someone has an actual interest in what you do? Maybe not so much in your industry, I'm sorry, but for me, I'll say it. So for me, like, I work with a company that do personal training courses and I've never stepped foot in a gym. So like all of the terminology and things, it was like, I have no idea what this is, and it was, yeah, I personally don't think it's been an issue, and he loves me, so it's all fine. But for you, how important is it that somebody gets your business, or at least has some sort of interest?
So, yeah, I mean, who's not interested in law? But, yeah, we don't expect people to have like a natural interest necessarily, but I think there's a difference between interest and curiosity, and you can be curious about something that you wouldn't naturally be interested in. And I think what we look for is people that have kind of got the kind of intellectual rigor to deal with our business, because, you know, we're selling quite complex services in some areas. It's not very straightforward, and so we're looking for people that can deal with that. They don't necessarily, you know, they don't necessarily have to feel like they're living the dream. You know, I am, but they don't have to. You know, it's, yeah.
Is there any sort of preference when somebody's working with something perhaps a little bit more complex, you know, where you need to know certain terminology, what not to say, if there's any sort of regulations? Is there like an alarm bell or something if somebody perhaps doesn't get it? Or, you know, do you prefer to be sent some sort of, you know, set of questions to just clarify things?
Yeah, so I think I've got to be careful because some of the people I've worked with are in this room. But not actually directed at. There've been a few over the years where we've just kind of said that they're not the right fit. I remember there was one PR lady who famously came into one of our monthly meetings and yeah, just we never saw her again. I'm sure she's well, but we never saw her again. I think it's, you get a sense of somebody, how deep is their thinking, how much have they gone away and already thought about this? How much are they listening to you? How much research have they already done? You look at stuff like that, and it's easy to make snap judgments, and we always like to give people a bit of time, but often it's a kind of a personality fit as well.
Is that working? Yeah. I was going to ask from the agency side, like, how do we look at handling that? How do we approach that? I feel like you were just going to answer it anyway.
Approach what specifically? Just
sorry. Turn it on and off so they don't interfere with each other. In terms of how do you understand things that are a little bit more complex, how do you make sure somebody gets it and we're not just chasing keywords that maybe have a good search volume and actually it's not the right fit at all?
I think it comes with time. I used to work on a tyre brand. I can never say that I'm passionate about tyres. I used to work on an oil brand. The same applies. But I think over time you gain that relationship with the client, in my perspective anyway, and hopefully you build on that and you become passionate about the things that you're not passionate about because you want the client to succeed. The other point I was going to make on the kind of who we pick in agency land, I'm not in the position of picking, but sometimes I know, particularly with what we do at Rise, it's good to get another perspective from different industries. So just because someone's worked on a fast fashion account doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to be put on another fast fashion account. Actually, it might be better to have someone who has that different perspective and can bring a different kind of element to the campaigns that we're suggesting for clients.
So in terms of how we communicate to the client, do you have any sort of set ways of communicating? Is it more ad hoc, other sort of touch points? What have you found works best for creating that relationship and keeping that relationship? I'll ask you after, Tom, for your perspective, which I'm sure you'll have.
So for me, it's really tailored to the individual. So I've had quite a few clients. I've worked in agencies for nearly 7 years, I think, maybe 6, I can't remember. It's been a whirlwind. And it's completely different for every single client that I work with. So I had a client recently, a retail client. She had so many emails in her inbox that the only way that I could physically get her attention was to text her. So I text her. I had another client who went to pick up his children at 3 o'clock. We had a half an hour call in the car while he was doing that. So for me, it's really an individual thing. And I don't think going into any sort of relationship, work-wise or otherwise, with one set way to do it is the way forward, really. So yeah, I'd always speak to people and find out what's the best thing for them.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, sometimes you can turn clients off massively by being too forceful and sort of saying, well, we want to do this meeting, we want to set up a Slack channel, we want to talk all the time. Some clients just don't want to know. Some clients just want to pay, get the report, make sure it's happy, and then that's it. But then similarly, some really do that. Some really want that and value that. So yeah, I agree completely that you need to just approach it as an individual thing as well.
What do you want?
So I'd echo, like, it's an individual. It's definitely an individual thing. We've just started with a new agency. It's new, it's exciting. 2 of them are in the room, so you know, it's still very fresh and it's great. We're still working out how that's going to work. We're not saying we're going to have a monthly meeting. We're not saying we're going to do this, we're going to do that. We're working out what we need at this point. And I think as well, it's good to review how you're communicating with people as well. You know, sometimes you need to take closer order on more complex projects. Now, from an in-house point of view, that's perhaps a little bit easier. From an agency point of view, oh, suddenly I've got to, you know, be a little bit more, you know, on the ball with the communication. So, you know, it flexes and it contracts as things change. But yeah, it's absolutely it's an individual thing, but it's also it's a fluid thing. It changes over time.
Expand on that as well. No, okay. I think it's important as well to just set what our expectations are in the agency as well, because sometimes you do need to get in touch with them, and you do need, if there's something pressing, like something like a migration, which you need to have that communication. You can't just be sat back. So I think it's important at the start to manage that expectation that we will communicate with you as much or as little as you want. But if there's something, if we're banging on your door for your attention, it's not because we just want to say hi, it's because there's something important. So I think it's important to make that clear as well, just so you're not ignored over something like that.
So speaking of being ignored, you know, when, especially someone that's coming into an account that's not worked on it before, and you know that you need to do certain things to really help get it off the ground, client's just not bothered. It's one of those clients that, like you said, I just want to pay my bill, as long as the result's fine, no problem. But if you know you need to get something done, or there's a few things that you need to get done, how do you really try and make them be a little bit more responsive? Because we've all had those ones.
sort of, like I just mentioned, really, we sort of manage that expectation at the start, so make them aware that sometimes we do just need to speak to them. If they really don't, it becomes a little bit complicated because they're paying the bill, so you don't really want to sort of piss them off to the point where they say, I can't be dealing with this, I'm going to go. But it's like your integrity as a company as well. If you can't get done what you say you're going to do, eventually that's going to come back and bite you on the arse, because they're going to say, well, you didn't get in touch with us about this, even if you tried. So I think sometimes you do just need to be forceful, and it can be just picking up the phone. I mean, a lot of people appreciate that a lot more than an email saying, can we arrange a call? If you just pick them up and phone them, like, you might get them on the school run, or you might get them on walking the dog, but you've managed to get in touch with them, and that can be one of the best ways to do it. Otherwise, they just die as a client and just vanish into the ether once it's expired.
I've completely forgotten the question. I've got complete stage fright.
I can fill in if you want, so. We're just talking about the clients that really don't respond when you need to get stuff done.
Can ignore the last minute. So I think for me, it's understanding why they're ignoring you. Are they ignoring you because you're a pain in their side and they don't want to speak to you, or are they ignoring you because they're busy and they can't answer you right now? I've had a recent client experience where she was seemingly ignoring me, and just like concise communication really helped her. So sent an email, actions highlighted in pink. She knows exactly what she needs to do, really clear, concise, and then she can come back to me on that one email. But yeah, I think if there might be a bigger issue there as well if they're just ignoring you. I also feel like having 2 or 3 contacts client side really helps, so you're not just reliant on that person. Could be they've gone off sick, they haven't put an out of office on. It could be that they've had something happen with their family, they're just not in the office. You know, there's all sorts of reasons why they might be ignoring you that don't necessarily mean they're dying.
Such a good point. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have those super needy clients as well. And I appreciate that with the best will in the world, we set the expectations from the beginning. And again, with the whole moving jobs thing, sometimes it's just that somebody might have sold something a little bit differently to what you would expect. And, you know, it happens. So what do you do with those super, super needy ones? So for me, like, I've answered emails on a Saturday. I've literally remember answering one in the bath and I cried because it was awful. They were asking why this new page that we put up 2 days ago wasn't ranking #1 for their keyword. And I'd like to think that we'd set the expectations from the beginning, but sometimes somebody gets something in their head and they're just so dead set on, we pay you to do this thing, you must get us to the top of Google now. Jen, get out the bath, get on your laptop. Like, what do you do in those situations?
Ask a really serious question. Why were you on your emails in the bath?
So I was like just getting in and it lit up. So this is my fun. To be honest, this is something that changed my perspective on working outside of work. That was the moment for me that I went, why have I got this on my phone? Like, it really doesn't matter. This can wait until Monday. So it did. A couple of more times, like, I put it back on and then I turned it back off, and then I finally went, no, I've worked out that for me, I just want to work my normal hours and reply to people when I'm being paid to reply to people. So yeah, we then sort of reset those expectations with them that I probably shouldn't have replied to you on this Saturday and we'll deal with this on Monday. And then in the end, it ended up being a little bit more better. Less tears from me.
Yeah, for me, I think it's setting those boundaries. Like, if you are the new person on the account, you know, if you don't reply after 5:30, they're not going to expect you to. If you don't reply on your weekends, they're not going to expect you to. So it's almost like setting your way of working and then just being confident and rolling with it, I think, for me.
Yeah, I mean, no one should be expected to work outside of their hours. They're not being paid. It's like what we said at the start about, you know, that human relationship. You know, the client, it works both ways. You know, much as you wouldn't expect the client to answer your emails, you shouldn't be expected to answer their emails as well. As good, with the best will in the world, you're not paid for that kind of stuff. So you can be proactive by all means, but yeah, definitely don't do it if you're not comfortable doing it, or it shouldn't be expected. Definitely, that's a big red flag if that is expected of a client. Really, that sort of doesn't infer that it's going to go well further down the line.
Sorry, Tom, you look like you were going to speak. So, go on.
Yeah. So I think, who are these people you're working with? Yeah, So there is such a thing as a bad client, I should imagine. I'd like to think that we're not a bad client. We like to treat agencies as an extension of our team. But I think there's also a little burden of responsibility that needs to fall onto the agency and culture and environment itself that kind of encourages the kind of later after hours working and the weekend checking of emails. I haven't previously, been at pains to say to people, I don't want reports after 5 p.m. I don't want to hear from you at the weekend. I'm not going to contact anyone after 5 p.m. because I wouldn't do that within Irwin Mitchell. I'm not going to do it with our agency partners. I get the sense that that might be quite unusual, which is maybe slightly worrying. But I think, it's those boundaries, but it's also respect. We're all professionals, we're all doing a job, and if it's a true partnership, which is what it should be if you're working with a client, then they need to respect that as well. That's easier said than done when they're putting the dollars into the account, but it's there needs to be that mutual respect.
Do you think it's something that we're getting better at agency side in terms of everybody kind of saying, hang on a minute, like we've worked from home, we've like worked from ironing boards, all sorts of weird stuff, like just to get this work done, because we weren't all set up to work from home, we didn't all have an office, some of us, go on.
So agencies, we'll get this across to you by Friday, we'll get this across to you by Friday, we'll get this across to you by Friday. You've got 15 things that are coming to you by Friday and they're going to get to you on Friday. And they end up hitting your inbox at 5 past 5, 10 past 5, because the account manager's got to check it over, make sure it's all right. You've got 15 things you're not going to read until the Tuesday of the following week. Yes, I think it has got better in the pandemic, but also there's this sense of deadlines immovable. We understand, well, you'd think that people would understand that sometimes, are you really going to deliver all that on a Friday? There's a lot there. Is that really the best way to stagger this work? I think one of the problems at agencies is you can end up with bottlenecks. People needing to approve things at your end. I mean, we've talked a lot about client approval, but actually agency approval can be problematic as well. The doers have done the work, and then somebody who's not a doer has then got to check that work. What are they checking it for? Are we going to trust the doers to do the doing and then send it over? I think we ought to, because, if those people aren't good enough to do the job, then, why are they there? So trust in people. Don't put too much onto one day. That's going to make your lives a lot easier. And also, I'm not going to read 15 documents on a Friday night. Like, I'm not going to read one of them on a Friday night. I'm off. I'm going to be reading them the following week, and it's going to take me all week to read those 15 documents. So just blindly hitting deadlines is not healthy for anyone.
Okay, I'll remember not to send anybody anything like late on a Friday. To be honest, we try not, so like it just makes sense, doesn't it? Like if we're in Friday afternoon mode, you're in Friday afternoon mode, like it can wait until Monday.
It can be a little bit upsetting sometimes. You kind of see somebody's worked really hard on a document and it's come across at like 7 p.m. on a Friday night, and you're just like, no, why? I just hate the idea of somebody having to work late because they've said they're going to do that for that deadline date. Like, send it on Monday. Just say, look, sorry, that it's fine. It's human. People miss deadlines. If you're in a proper sort of grown-up partnership with your clients, that should be, if it's something like a migration, no, you work till whenever. That's they're one-off instances that come round. Once in a blue moon. Sometimes there are points when you're going to need to work out of hours. The client's going to be working out of hours at that point as well. That kind of comes back to honesty as well. What I was saying earlier, it's, be honest with your clients. These things happen.
Just coming back to something we mentioned earlier, because you reminded me of just a really weird situation. So one of my previous biggest clients that we had, they were just super easy to work with. Like, they didn't need constant attention. They didn't want it. If anything, it was difficult for me to rein it in a bit. They were more like, don't bother emailing us, we don't really read emails. And I'd always want to do this massive breakdown of here's what we've done, here's what we're going to do, and here's the results from this one little thing that we did. Because I was super proud of it, I was excited, and they were like, yeah, we're not bothered, like, how much money did you make us? That's all we care about. So they preferred to communicate through Slack. So I was set up on their channel, and I was just doing the regular checks and stuff, and then just randomly noticed, last thing on a Friday, like I was working a little bit later than I usually would, and I was like, hang on, why is everything suddenly canonicalized to the homepage? Every single page, but this wasn't like this before, who did this? So don't ask me why I did it, it was just in the moment, but I hit the caps, I was like, who did this? And all their development team were like, oh God, Jen's on one. And they managed to work out what the issue was, and they were like, do you know what, this can probably wait till Monday, everyone wants to go home. And it was fine over the weekend, but it's just coming back to the whole, it's Friday, and the client are also people, and they pay people's wages, and they don't want to work on a Friday. So, yeah. So in terms of issues, you don't have to name names or anything super specific, but can you think of any examples where you've had that sort of issue with the client and how you've resolved it? Tom's smiling like he's got one already.
Do you know what? I haven't had any horrible clients. Wow. And I'm going to touch wood that I never do. I've heard of them in the agencies that I've worked at, but I haven't had any. So this question, I don't feel, is for me.
I've had a few. It's always the same. It's like the results aren't there. It's the end of month one, and they're not smashing the organic rankings, and it's incredibly difficult to broach because a lot of clients get it, a lot of clients understand it, sort of probably 80% of them understand, but the ones that don't, really don't. And they can be really hard to deal with because you have to, it feels like you're bullshitting because you have to explain that it takes time, and it can be really hard to come across. I've had clients accuse me of being patronising because I'm saying like it takes time, and it's hard to deal with. But I think when it's going wrong, you just have to be honest. You just have to be, like Tom said at the start, you just have to say, look, this isn't working. What we're doing isn't working. We're going to reevaluate. We're going to sort of look at what we can do differently and how we can get it back. And in my experience, that works a million times better than just trying to paper over the cracks and patch over it and patch up the relationship to get it to the end of or to get it to a point in where you can finish the contract or whatever. I've had clients retain and renew on the basis that we've been honest with them, and when it's not worked, and starting again. So I'd say that's whatever you do, that's the most important thing. Just be honest about what's gone wrong and what you're going to do to fix it.
Sorry, Tom, I keep looking at you because I just feel like you're going to have something.
Yeah, I mean, I've got quite a lot. I mean, there's always issues. It's a partnership, it's a relationship. There are going to be points where the personnel on your account aren't as interested. That's a natural thing. That might indicate that it's time to change some of the people on the account. Again, that's a natural thing in an agency. It's a luxury that you've got in an agency, is that you can swing new people onto an account. We've certainly been through that in the past, where just people are just they've kind of given their all, and and it's kind of run its course, and that's fine. That can be an issue. Managing the transition of staff, as we've discussed, that's another issue. Going absent can be a bit of an issue. Like sometimes, an agency, you've got one of your other clients, probably one of the needy ones, is asking you to do more, and that can mean naturally that you're doing less for one of your other clients, and so just managing that better can be really helpful. The other thing as well is, you might go out and do a load of client pitches. That can take a lot of resource off your account for quite some time. At the same time, you're still paying for a service that you're not necessarily receiving. So there's lots of different issues that you can get there. Just coming on to the point as well around people, not necessarily appreciating how long things take. I think Google certainly seems to have made a lot more effort the last sort of few years in terms of trying to help with that education piece. I think there's some videos and things you can point to. If you don't believe us, listen to Google. you can kind of bring that kind of third party into it. Education is a big part of the role that you guys will play in an in-house team. You know, some clients will be clued up, some clients won't, some people within some teams won't understand. The other sort of elephant in the room there is that clients may well have dealt with previous agencies and have hang-ups and carry scars from those relationships that inevitably get transferred. So I think you've got an education piece in terms of, you know, making sure that people understand what it is you're doing, value what you're doing, and give you the time and space to do it well.
Working with Tom, I think, has a really good deal, actually. Tom's got a really good understanding of, like, our side of things. That's really nice. Would they not say the same?
None of them have clapped or cheered. So.
Yeah, that's really awkward. So, final question, and then we'll move on to some Q&As. So, get your questions ready. Obviously, relationships come to an end, like, it's kind of inevitable sometimes. So, what are some of the most common reasons that you've seen the partnerships sort of, and again, Tom's smiling. You've worked with a few agencies, so that's come to a natural end at some point. What are the reasons for those? What makes you want to leave us?
Everybody left us. I think most recently, I think our entire team within the space of 6 months, and then the wider kind of circle of people. You know, you work with people, you buy the people that you work with. 1 or 2 people leave, and that can be covered. And you know, even that can be quite a shock. But you know, if you're going to change the shape of your agency completely, but then not think about how you'll plug in that gap, your client is going to leave because they're buying from people. You know, they might, you know, they value those people and the particular skills that those people offered. They'll go and find that elsewhere. So the other thing I would just say around managing out that what can be quite a difficult period is, you know, we have just come through that, and I think it's much more constructive to kind of look at it as a door left open for the future, even if it may not be, because from both sides, you know, there's no point kind of gradually pulling the rug away of services over the notice period, whatever it may be, and also doing good work up until the end. And we were very fortunate with the agency we've just left, in that they put some really good people on the account, and we were getting really good work right up until the very final day, and a really grown-up handover to the following agency. And I think that really did justice to the full relationship we'd had with that agency over the years. So yeah, there's many reasons a client will leave, but I think it's also how you handle that. You know, there's a good way to go about it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think one of my little mantras in work life is not to burn any bridges, and I think that's quite a testament to that, really, especially when you come to things like this and you know half the people in the audience because you've worked with them, or they've been clients, or you know, people come around again. And I think if you can leave those relationships amicably, then the door's always open. And you know, if I go to another agency or whatever, they're not going, oh, we don't want to work with that agency because Emma Singleton did this 10 years ago. I also think that for me, the biggest thing over the years that I've worked is the change in agency proposition. So clients might buy into one thing, and then the agency, for whatever reason, decides that they're going to do something different, which is absolutely fine. We evolve, we change. But then the client's not quite on the journey with the agency and what they want to do. And then the other thing that I've found is that the expectations of a client don't actually match the reality. So the new business guy might come to you and go, yeah, this client's worth 100 grand, whatever. And then it's not. And then everyone's kind of at a strange position at the beginning of the relationship and the subsequent months where you don't really know where you stand with each other, I guess. But yeah, it's not something that's happened too often, thankfully.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, people leave for completely different reasons. One we get quite often is, well, SEO is done now, so we don't need to carry on, which is just a kind of fundamental misunderstanding of the entire thing. But I think the important thing is that you always keep pushing forward and always keep looking at what you're going to do next. It's very easy to sort of stagnate in some work and do it and then consider it done, but pushing it forward is a good way to keep people on board. But sometimes the relationships, you know, whether it's a personal issue or whether it's related to the different courses that you've been set on, they come to an end. But I think the important thing when they do come to an end is that it's done amicably in a grown-up way, like Tom says. Like if there's a handover in an agency, you don't sort of throw the toys out of the pram and start being awkward or difficult. You know, sharing everything that you've done or projects that are completed with the client so they can continue them on. Like you say, Emma, it's about not burning bridges. They could feasibly come back to you in the future, you know, and if the way you behaved at the end of their cycle was poor, then they're not going to come back, are they? So that's one of the most important things, I think.
Perfect. Do we want to do some Q&As now? No? Am I doing the Q&As? Am I? Oh God, okay. I don't want to run about.
Make sure you repeat the questions because we haven't got enough mics.
I remember. Thank you. Does anyone have a question before I get up? Oh, why'd you have to be sat over there? I'm just going to have to repeat your question back into the mic once you've said it, just so the people on the live stream can hear. I'm not being rude. I'm going to come round the other way. Oh, why didn't I wear flat shoes? Oh, do you want to say it?
I can, yeah. Hiya. From a client perspective, I mean, I guess this is kind of for everyone, but beyond the obvious ones, such as pay you and reply to your emails, what can I do to not be a nightmare client? I guess. Yeah. How can I be a better client as opposed to...
That's a great question, isn't it? Yeah. That's who do you work for? I think just being, from my perspective, it's just being open to what we're suggesting. And there's nothing worse than creating loads of ideas and them just being shot down. So recognising that it's a two-way relationship is probably the best thing, rather than just checking out and signing that check at the end of the month. Respond to the ideas with ideas of your own. You know, be proactive with us so we can work with you to get the best results. Is the thing I'd say. Just be open to everything that we're suggesting.
What an amazing question, thank you. It's just like, I don't know how to answer it. There's so many things whizzing around my head. Always be up for a laugh, always be up for a drink, always be up for a night out. We've got them out of the way. I'd say give as much context as possible. Don't just ask us for ideas based on a 2-sentence brief, for example. You know, why do you want us to do this? Who are you showing it to at your side? You know, if you're showing it to a senior director, it might be that we do it slightly differently. If they hold the budget and they're going to be the ultimate sign-off than someone who's, you know, maybe pitching something to a team or an individual. Yeah, I think the way you build, or certainly in my experience, the way you build the relationships is having that honest, open dialogue with people. So, yeah, as much context as possible to everything that we do. And yeah, be up for a drink and have a nice time.
I like Emma's thinking. So just in the thinking of we can all grab another drink in a minute, we've got time for another couple of questions. Who wants to put the hand up? Yes, you're near. That's fantastic.
Yes, okay, I thought you'd help me out. It's more from a client perspective, I guess, than an agency perspective. So probably for, is it Tom? Sorry. So I work a lot. I work in an agency, but I do all of our newsletters and the videos, and I try and really educate the clients from a macro perspective, I guess, as to what we're trying to do. Do you have time? Like, how much attention do you pay to, I guess, like that level of stuff that's coming from the agency that you employ versus how much of that do you want to come from your specific account manager? Like, I don't really want to have to read newsletters and things like that. I want to just speak to the guy or the girl that I speak to.
Yes, a really good question, that. So I think I can speak from my own experience, but I think that is kind of individual to the kind of the level that your client's at and what they can kind of bear. I think I'm quite fortunate working in-house, sort of dedicated towards SEO, that I'd like to think I'm already quite on top of what's going on in the wider industry, and those kind of things I don't necessarily need. But I think there are certain circumstances where you might want a piece of insight that you could share within your business wider. That kind of does, for somebody in my role, does some of my job for me, and that's a really helpful thing. So one of the agencies we work with, not on the SEO side, does a lot of kind of insight type pieces that explain upcoming changes in regulation in advertising. That's quite useful to circulate around other people within our wider marketing team, within other stakeholders within our business. So it's quite good to have that kind of stuff emailed across from the account manager. Look, we've got this paper you thought you might be interested in. I think there will definitely be a sense of, as well with some clients, of just that kind of synopsis of what's going on. So there's a lot of agencies out there that kind of have made that into just a thing, a newsletter of like a summary of a roundup of what's happened this month. You know, that can be useful for busy people who aren't necessarily doing SEO, you know, every day, which I think is probably the norm, certainly in a lot of smaller businesses. So I think you really need to tailor that to your client, not to evade the question at all. But I think it really just depends on them.
Thank you. Do we have one more? Oh, of course, you sat at the other side of the room. One more question, then we'll let you go for drinks. But, of course, you can ask the panellists one-on-one afterwards.
Sorry for making you walk.
No, you're all right.
My perspective is from an agency in terms of a problematic client. So if you've got a client that's unresponsive, has unrealistic views, and then suddenly comes back and sort of gives you all this negative, whether it's in a meeting, an email, a call, how best would you tackle that? Would it be sort of preemptive, or would you then start to sort of like build on the relationship after?
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the problem I'm going to have to deal with on Monday, I think. I think the important thing with that is that you address it straight away. So it's acknowledge the fact that they've got back to you, so that's good. But also explain the problems that you've had getting in touch with them, and that, you know, we need more. What's going on with this? So acknowledge their problems and sort of ask them about it. Ask them, is there a reason why they're taking so long? Is it because they don't really believe in what we're doing? Are you not engaging them enough? So ask them why it's taken so long, and try to get to the root of the problem. And then by all means, try and repair the relationship. If it doesn't work, which it may not do, then obviously we need to look at what we can do after that. But definitely always try and repair it. You should just never let it die just because it's inconvenient or it's frustrating or difficult to deal with. I think tackling it head on is the best way.
And just to add to that as well, I think if you can get them on a call, don't do it via email. Emails can come across as really abrasive sometimes when you don't mean to, and if you get in front of them, you've got a human element to it. So that would be my addition to what's been said.
Just coming at it from the client perspective, obviously what you won't see is what's happening in their side, and the competing priorities that they'll have on their desk, of which you'll just be one. And the thing that you think is really important might not be so important in the grand scheme of things for them. So I think it's taking the time to kind of, and I know we kind of talked about this earlier, is taking time to kind of really get under the bonnet of what that is and why they've not been responsive. You know, nobody's spending thousands of pounds on an agency relationship to then ignore them. Something's wrong there, something else is going on. Get to the bottom of that. I think taking the time to do that will really help the relationship longer term, because you know, we're all people. We've all got stresses and competing priorities and things going on, taking the sting out of that kind of adversarial, we recommended this and you haven't done it and you haven't responded to my emails. Yeah, and there might be a very good reason for that. You know, I know some of the people in the room will know that I've ignored them for weeks on end. There are very good reasons for that often, but you know, it's just taking the time to understand what's going on there.
So thank you, Emma, Adam and Tom, for all of your insights, and thank you to all the questions as well. So we're going to have a 5-minute break, and then there's Ash's talk on how good content design can help your SEO afterwards. So let's run to the bar, run to the toilets, because there's not many toilets.
Cool. I hope everybody's enjoying themselves so far. I'm glad to see that most people are still with us. I did write down, because I had to promise to apologise to Tom because that projector was blinding him for most of the panel. First I blinded him with this, then my MacBook Pro, and then everybody knows what brand of projector we're using as well. So in focus, great projectors unless you want to turn them off. In that case, not that good. Big thanks to Cara, who works here at the workstation, for turning the heating up a little bit. I saw some coats going on, some chilly hands being rubbed, so hopefully you're all feeling a little bit warmer now. Here he is, he's back, perfect. And Jen cut things short for me. I wanted to do, basically, on the end of that panel, a few kind of recurring themes that came up. A quick straw poll again before we get into the next talk. People in the audience, who amongst you have been those people to receive those kind of late night emails in the bath, on the wedding day, giving birth? Show of hands, come on, don't be shy, I know it's dark, I can still see you just about. Quite a few. You've been on the receiving end, it's not great. And now for the show of true honesty. Which of you are the ones who have sent those bloody emails? Yeah, look left and right, everybody. Work out who it is. I'm kidding, obviously. It happens. I'm guilty. I'm awful for it. But I shall not be anymore. So, getting on to the next bit, I should probably welcome Ash up to the stage. And I need the other microphone. Completely unprepared. That's what happens when you go for a bathroom break. We're going to need to get Ash's talk ready too. If you wouldn't mind, please, Tommy. Yeah, I'll waffle for a bit and introduce Ash. Ash, what is your job?
Hello. My name is Ash. I am the senior copywriter at Rise at 7. You might not have heard of us. It's a quiet bunch of people, but yeah, I look after words, apostrophes, all this fun stuff that other people don't want to do. Fix a lot of typos. Make a mean PowerPoint slide deck as well, as you'll soon see. There I am. Look at me. Happiest day of the job that was.
You can tell it's the first time we've done this in a while. There's a clicker for you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. It's been a while since we've done this in person, as you can tell. Anyway, I'm going to jump off the stage so we don't get this awful feedback coming through. Ash, really looking forward to your talk. Please give Ash a big round of applause. And we'll do some Q&A again afterwards. Over to you.
Great, well thank you very much. It is lovely to be in a crowd full of people again. I've done a few talks over the last couple of years where I've been sat behind a screen and I've no idea if people aren't laughing because I'm not funny or if because the tech's broken, so tonight will be proof that I'm just not very funny. The last time I spoke in front of a crowd of people was actually at my wedding 3 weeks ago, where everyone was a lot drunker and loved me already. So it was really easy. The main emotions I was trying to get out of that speech were love, happiness, and a few tears. If I can achieve 2 out of those 3 tonight, I'm onto a winner. You decide which 2 they are. So like I said, I look after all the words at Rise at 7, and part of that job is writing them. The other part is checking to make sure that they are accessible for whoever wants to read them. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. It's about writing good content that performs good results. Hopefully you find it interesting, hopefully you find it informative, hopefully you find my jokes funny. So I'm going to talk about 3 things. The first one is really why this stuff matters. So why, whenever we're writing content, should we make sure it's accessible? What's the point of it? What's the point of this talk? Why shouldn't you leave early? The second one is why good content design and accessible content can go hand in hand with SEO. Why, if you do one thing well, you naturally achieve results with the other thing. And the third thing is just going to be a few top tips about how you can go away and start doing it tomorrow. Because as much as I'm up here talking about it for 20 minutes, it's not as hard as I'm going to make it sound. It's simple, you can all do it. If I can do it, anyone can. Not really, please keep paying me my salary. But first, you can tell I've been working with PRs for a while because I'm going to start with a hook. a shocking insight. You will not believe the results. When I started out as a copywriter, I didn't give a shit about any of this. I wanted to be writing the cool taglines, the straplines, the posters that you'd see in adverts that advertising students would want to read about in the future. I wanted to be Don Draper, minus the drinking, the drugs, and the extramarital affairs. I've been married 3 weeks, it's too early for that. But then the first time someone sort of told me about content design, honestly, it didn't mean anything to me. I wasn't interested in it, I didn't want to learn about it. And then when I started to look into it, I realised actually by doing it well, the cool copy that I want to write, the fun lines that I still want to do, will look better, they will work harder, they'll achieve better results, and people will want more of them. Now, I'm lucky enough that I don't need extra accessibility measures put in place for me to enjoy the internet. I'm type 1 diabetic, and I look after that well. Doctors are proud of me. I get a little sticker whenever I go. But if that was to stop, it could all become very different, and accessible content could be something that I need a lot more of. I could develop problems that make the internet look like this. Things would be out of focus, I wouldn't be able to read the buttons, small body copy would mean nothing to me. I wouldn't be able to navigate half the pages I can now. I could develop issues with my peripheral vision, which would make the internet look a bit like this. I wouldn't be able to view navigation panels on the side of websites. I wouldn't be able to click call to actions. I'd get a headache very quickly, so any long periods of body copy would just put me off straight away. I could go blind, which would make the internet look like this. A visual gag for you there, blindness. I would rely heavily on a screen reader, which would mean if I couldn't navigate through a web page easily just by pressing a tab key, I wouldn't bother. It would mean if the screen reader was reading content that I found boring, I wasn't getting to the point, I would stop. I would go somewhere else. Websites that hadn't been designed with me in mind would not get my custom. And while diabetes couldn't make me go colourblind, if it did, the internet would look like this. And while a logo looking slightly off, as weird as it is, doesn't matter. Sorry to any designers in the room, but your work is meaningless to me. Links that have been put in a certain colour wouldn't look like links. Buttons that had been put in a certain colour to make me click them, I wouldn't know they're buttons. Colour that was being used to display meaning would lose all meaning on me. So that's just a little look at how accessibility can make a difference from a visual point of view. It can also make a big difference from a financial point of view, and that's what I'm going to talk about a bit now. When I talk about accessible content to people, which I do often, they find me a bit annoying. I did a talk the other day called Accessibility, because it's my name and the word accessibility combined together. Ironically, it was a really inaccessible title for a talk. It fell apart straight away. But they find it interesting. They don't necessarily find it exciting. And they should do, because there's a lot of people that need it. 13.9 million people in the UK alone with a disability. You can't see the word disability, my head's there. It says the word disability. That's a huge target market that if your content isn't accessible, you're going to lose out on. That's people that could be wanting to buy your product, they just are unable to do it. If you're not making your site accessible, you're not appealing to these people. There's a further 8.6 million people in the UK who might not be disabled, they might be sat in this room, but they still can't see the internet the way you do. And that could include anyone. That could include someone who uses a head wand to navigate the internet. They can't use a mouse. It might include people who rely on a screen reader. It might include your gran, who can't read small font sizes. It might include me first thing in the morning, who hasn't put my contact lenses in, but still wants to look at my phone up here really closely, really angrily first thing in the morning, telling my new wife things she just doesn't care about. The football happened yesterday, it was a great goal, watch it. She doesn't want to watch it, she's leaving me. There's 3 million people in the UK who are colourblind. They're people who, no matter what you do to your design, are going to see it in a certain palette. They might not see links that you've highlighted. They won't know that's a link. They won't click it. They might not see the big red button that you've put on that says, do not click here, and the green button that says, please buy this product. Red and green mean nothing to them. They'll see it all in the same way. Your content has to be accessible, otherwise these people do not enjoy it. In total, they've got a spending power, all my big numbers are being hidden behind my big head, a spending power of over £16 billion. And while I'm not saying that if you make your content accessible, you will earn £16 billion, because if you did, I would not be here. I would be on an island with my new mate Jeff Bezos talking about how we were going to be even richer. If your content is unaccessible, that's money you cannot get, because those are the people that are going to spend it and you're not appealing to them. But, dramatic but, pause for effect. 70% of websites fail the basic accessibility needs. So, accessibility is judged by a group of people called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and they perform checks on websites to decide whether or not they meet the basic standards. 70% don't. That could be your clients, it could be you, it's almost certainly your agency website. None of them meet accessibility needs. That costs businesses around £11.75 billion every year. That's a figure that's called the click-away pound, and that's the pound that is lost when people literally go to a site, fuck off straight away again. 80% of people with accessibility needs, if they visit a website and it doesn't look accessible, will go somewhere else. They'll take their business somewhere else. You'll lose that custom. By making your content accessible, you're giving yourself a chance of earning that business. You may have had a beautiful product journey designed, you may have a great product you want to sell, but if the very first page of that journey can't be read by their screen reader or can't be clicked because their hand shakes, or they just can't read it because it's in a different colour, you're not going to sell it to them. Fortunately, that leads very handily onto my next point. So, when you do content design, you're not doing it differently to SEO, you're doing the same thing. One thing is the other, and if you do one well, the other naturally goes well as well. To put it bluntly, content design is about making things look easier to use. It's about making sure whoever your user is, they can go to your website and navigate to the part of the website they want to do without any fuss, without any extra effort. If they want to buy something, they can go onto your site and buy it. They don't have to faff about, they don't have to get lost, they don't have to get frustrated. The same thing is true of SEO. The easier a website is for a person to use, the easier it is for a Google bot to navigate. They're not two separate target audiences, they're the same people. One of them's controlled by the internet, one of them is a human, but effectively they want the same thing. Content that is easy to read is easy to read for a person, it's easy to read for a robot. If a page has all the information I need to navigate, to learn all about a product, to buy it, if I can find that, so can Google. If headings are clear enough for me to navigate to that heading and think, this is where I need to be, Google can navigate to that page and think, this is what I need to rank. It's the same thing. Do one job well, do the other job well. The clearer your content is, the higher your content will rank. That's because it's easy for people to read, and therefore they're more likely to do it. It's easy for Google to read, and therefore they're more likely to scan it. If that page is clear about what it's talking about, it's clear for both humans and robots. You never search for something and find an incredibly dense article first page. You find listicles, you find bullet points, you find content in the question and answer format because that's what people are searching for, and that's the content that answers those questions. It's content that's accessible for me because I've asked a question and you're giving me a result straight away. It's content that Google likes because people are asking Google that question and it can give them those answers. It's accessible, it's fast, it gives me direct results, it doesn't require any sort of scrolling. Therefore I'm happy, therefore Google's happy too. And this shit isn't hard. It's basic, plain English. It's writing the sort of stuff that you want to read yourself. It's writing content that if you were a customer, you'd find it and think, I found that useful. You don't require any fancy tools, although there is a slide about them later on. You don't require any technical know-how. You just require a good grasp of the English language or a reasonably priced copywriter who will do it for you. Speak to me later. I'm going to show you a few examples now of what a good content design can look like and what terrible content design can look like. It'll be fun and it'll be educational. So this is good content design. This is Channel 4's homepage. And the little numbers you can see across the screen are what's called the tab order. So if I was a blind user on this website, I wouldn't click with a mouse. Or if I had Parkinson's and couldn't hold the mouse clearly, I wouldn't use a mouse. I'd use a tab key. The tab key would navigate me through this website in this order. First, I'd start up at the Channel 4 logo. So I'd know I was on Channel 4's homepage. Straight away, I know I'm in the right place. I'd then go across the top menu. I'd go to Home, I'd go to the viewings, I'd go to what was on live TV, I'd see box sets. I'd even see parental controls in case I wanted to stop my child watching porn. I'd go everywhere, finding what the Spice Girls have been up to, seeing people get married without having met each other is just as easy as signing up for All 4+. It's written in a clear flow from top to bottom, left to right, in the exact same way we're taught to read as kids. It's easy. And everything on this page is one big internal link. There's no faffy SEO content there. There's no filler content. There's nothing. It's just link after link after link that takes you to another page full of links and links and links. Click on the Spice Girls, you go to a page all about the Spice Girls. Content there is SEO heavy. It's full of other links to learn more about the Spice Girls. It's great for Google. They love it. It's also great for me as a user because I find out what I need to find out and I can watch the Spice Girls documentary. On the flip side of that is this. This content design is so bad it transcends media. On the left, you've got the dreaded text. Someone I've been in contact with has tested positive for COVID, and they've grassed me up. They've said, I saw Ash the other day, he might have it too. Now, straight away, I know what this text is telling me isn't true. The rules have changed, I'm double jabbed, I don't have to self-isolate if I'm a close contact. But this text message doesn't tell me any of that. This tells me that I do have to stay inside for 10 days. This means that I should visit my test and trace account, fill in those personal details. It calls me Ashley James, like I've done something wrong. Like, did my mum send me this text? What have I done? I'm sorry. It gives me this account number, which I've never seen before. So straight away, I don't trust this text. I think, surely the government wouldn't send me something that isn't true. Would they? So I don't click the link like it tells me to, because that link's over 5 lines. Why would they send me a link over 5 lines? It looks too long, it doesn't look legitimate. I don't respond as quickly as I should respond because I doubt the validity of this message. I have to go to Google to figure out if this message is right or not. If this was a retail outlet, I wouldn't bother, I'd just give up straight away. I'd go somewhere else and find what I wanted somewhere else. I'm only doing this because I care about the wellness of my neighbours, my country and my gran. After Googling it and figuring out, actually, this is right, I should be clicking this link, I do go to that link, I do start to fill in all the details. However, the second link takes me to the government website. The less said about the content design there, the better. That asks me for my NHS number. I do not know what that is. I have to download a second app, the NHS app, fill in even more details on there to figure out my NHS number, just to give them the details they need here. This takes me 2 hours because I'm not as tech savvy as I like to sound. Once I've done that, I then get the second text. This text calls me my full name as if I've done something really bad. It also includes that account number, which I've not seen since clicking that link. I didn't have to enter that anywhere. I didn't have to use it to sign in like it tells me I have to. The journey didn't add up. The second text tells me, actually, you're all right. You don't have to stay inside for 10 days. You've got all you need. You can go outside. You're free to mingle. However, it tells me to book a PCR test, even if I do not have symptoms. I've just come back from Corfu. On day 2 of that journey, I had to do a PCR test. Do I have to do a second one? Have they not already received one? It then gives me a second link to click, which doesn't look like the first link. It's shorter. It's going to a different place. I'm not sure what to trust. I'm not sure if they've been speaking to each other. After all that, 3 days later, I get the third text. This is from a different sender. It's not from NHS, it's from the Gov UK site. It's from Sheffield City Council, who don't use my name at all. Have we fallen out? This clearly hasn't seen a second text. It still tells me I've got to isolate for 10 days. It sends me a link to a helpful isolation pack, which I'm yet to visit. It might be great, I don't know. But it looks like they haven't been speaking to each other. There's 3 separate parts there where the content design hasn't added up, including a website and a second app. If I wanted to buy something, I would have gone somewhere else and bought it quicker. Now for some live examples of how we can avoid those problems. Any second. Write headings that tell people what the copy about them is about. Don't try and write a heading to sound clever or to sound funny. I've fallen into that trap in the past where I've thought, this is some fun copy, people will enjoy it. People don't enjoy it. Write headings that make it clear that if I scroll beyond that heading, I'm going to read about this subject matter. That's good for Google, because Google knows your page is talking about this. It's also great for me as the user, because I know I found the right place. Headings like this. I know straight away that this page is going to tell me all about affordable vehicle leasing deals from the experts. The key word in that heading, I know I'm good. I know I'm in the right place. I know if I scroll down exactly that I'm going to find this. It's clear, it's upfront, it doesn't require any extra effort from me. Headings like this, which talk about top family-friendly activities for October half term. Bingo, I'm in the right place. I don't have to worry. Or headings like this, which are active. They tell me that I'm about to choose a broadband deal. They tell me that, I'm looking for broadband, here you go, you've found it. Because it's got that active message in it, I know I'm about to do something, I'm about to be part of a purchase journey. Write descriptive links. This is one we see a lot of, links that say, click here for more. If I've not read the rest of that body copy, I do not know what clicking here will achieve. More of what? Maybe I don't want more. And if I'm using a screen reader, you can use a screen reader to skip all the body copy out and go straight to the call to action. And if I've not read the body copy and I find a link that says click here for more, I'm not going to click it. I'm not going to get more. Descriptive links avoid that problem. For example here, the highlighted text is our current roles. It's obvious that by clicking that, I'm going to go to a jobs page. If I've not read anything else there, and all I read is our current roles, I will find jobs. On a side note, we've got loads of open current roles. If you want to apply, say that I sent you. We might get a bonus scheme, I don't know. I might introduce one for myself. Or this one, which is clearly a link to diabetic recipes. A very good diabetes site here, written by me. If you want to learn about what I deal with every day, it's very good, really well written. That link is obviously going to take me to diabetic recipes page. I know by clicking it what I'm going to get. I'm left in no doubt. Someone's just read the line about poo. More where that came from. Or this link, clicking this will take me to a pet-friendly holiday page. I know it because it's there. That's the link. That's good for me. That's good for Google. They can see that's a link with value. They will rank it higher. Same for buttons. You want your buttons to tell you where clicking them will take you. That builds trust. If I see a button that is going to take me somewhere, I want to click it. I want to know I'm going to go to the right place. I want to know I'm not going to be scammed or end up wasting my time. This button, find out more about the latest scams. I'm pretty sure by clicking that, I'm going to find out more about scams. It looks trustworthy. On a page like this, where they're talking about financial fraud, I want to know that I'm not going to be a victim of financial fraud. That'd be ironic. I know that that button's likely to be trustworthy. This button, if I click it, I'm going to get a consultation. It's simple. It's nothing fancy. It's just 3 clear words that do the action that by clicking it I will achieve. Never do this button. This button is awful. Without any context on this page, that button means nothing to me. Find out more about what? It's going to cost me how much? For that, that button could say, book a spa day. It's on a spa page. It could say, book a spa day at this particular spa. I know that clicking it, I would do that. If I click find out more, I don't know where I'm going. Google doesn't know where I'm going. That button has 0 meaning. And if I'm tabbing through a page and all I find is find out more, and by the way, you're going to pay £188 per person, you can bet I'm bloody not going to click that button. Keep your body copy to the point. Sadly, I know that what I do, people don't care about. As much as I wish everyone read every word I wrote, every word I painstakingly slaved over, every word that the client edited to make it sound a little bit different, I'd be delighted if everyone read that. They don't. I'm not the star attraction. I'm selling the star attraction. The body copy I'm writing is purely to get people from point A to point B, where they can give our client money. Keep it short, keep it succinct. Google will then know, well, this is a page that people are going to enjoy. This is a page that isn't trying to fob me off by filling 26 keywords in a small piece of copy. It's a page that's easy to read. Readability matters. And it also matters for a screen reader. Because if I'm scrolling through something and it's taking me forever to get where I want to go, I'm not going to bother going there. This body copy is 5 lines, 101 words. Tells me everything I need to know about it. It tells me that if I'm looking for the UK's best new car lease deals, more keywords there, I've come to the right place. Great, I'm in the right place. I can find cars. There's a link there that takes me to something else I might find useful. That's all the body copy that exists on that page. It tells me everything I need to know. It's got the keywords in there that I might like to find. This is body copy that talks about a campaign that we ran. It's short, it's succinct, it tells you what the campaign's about, it's full of tone of voice, but it's not too much. It's split up into short, bite-sized chunks of text, easy to read, doesn't lose the meaning of the page, gets people to where you want them to go. This body copy is split up into fancy-looking numbers. I could have written this all in one big paragraph. It would have said the same thing, it would have made the same point, it wouldn't have looked as good. We want this page to get across the meaning of speed. We want it to be as simple as we're saying it is. We want people to think, right, there's 3 steps, and then they get a new broadband. It looks fast, therefore maybe it will be fast. It looks easy to read, so I'll read it, and then I can complete the action. Here are some handy tools to make your life easier. All of these tools are free. You can download them all in Google Chrome, stick them in your extensions, use them. And all of them run very simple tests on any site you're looking at. You use a lot of them with the inspect tool, which is simply a right-click inspect. You open this, it scans your page, it tells you things. They're all available, and they all compare your site to the Web Content Accessibility Guideline Toolkit. They basically score it for you, so you can run a check on a client website and say, you're failing on these things, they're easy to fix, and often they are easy to fix. Often they're things like an image is missing meta description, or a colour contrast isn't quite high enough. They're things you can do very quickly, but you can charge your client a lot of money for. Any questions? Ideally easy ones. Round of applause too, if possible.
I'm going to have to run round and see who's got their hands up now. It's a bit dark in here, isn't it? There's 2 at the back. What was that, Jen? No heels. Not tonight, no. Go on then, Mr. Ash Young.
You've got a great name, like it. Also Ashley James. So one of my best friends is actually partially sighted. Ooh, what's going on here? And I think this is absolutely great. But how do you get your clients to give a shit about it?
Saying that again, you're a little bit echoey.
Basically, how do you get your clients to give a shit about this?
Well, some of them don't. That's the sad truth. I think part of the problem is that accessible content isn't necessarily considered by Google as a key ranking feature yet. The more accessible your site, it doesn't mean it will rank higher. But like I said earlier on, the things you do for accessible content are effectively the same things you would do to help your site rank higher. And I think selling them in that way really helps show them that actually we're doing 2 good things with one here, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Showing the financial side of things as well, we can show a client how much money they're losing with bounce rate. And if we can show that that bounce rate is coming at a certain part of a page, that we can show that by working on that part of the page and making it easier for people to use, they will earn more money. There's a tool called Hotjar, which shows people where people have been navigating to on your website, and it shows you the main pressure points. The hotter a spot is, the more time people have spent there. And we've had sites before where people have been spending ages hovering in the navigation tab because they just don't know how to find what they're looking for. Showing them evidence that their site is currently causing problems, and then showing them the solutions that they can fix these problems with a few very quick things to do. I don't see why a client would say no. And if they do, well, ask nicely, and I'll say something nasty about them behind their back.
That was very diplomatically put. Got another question from the back over here.
So first a comment and then a question. Firstly, you've made me feel a lot worse because we do SEO for pharmacies, and I've been telling them how great we did ranking above the government's own website for PCR tests. And you've made me feel like that was no big feat, you know. the government just didn't know what they were doing. But the second one is, you know, so I get, you know, from a very layman's perspective, I get alt text and things like that. In terms of accessibility for people with, you know, like you're talking about small text and things like that. This might be a really basic question, but as a user, I don't want to be reading pages with massive text. What can you make that? How can you make that different for different users, but on the same web page?
One of the things you can do is make sure that the site you're looking at is zoomable. So certain fonts break at certain sizes, and if you zoom in too much, you will lose focus. What you want to do is make sure that you can zoom in and focus on a certain part of text and read it clearly without losing meaning. And by zooming in, you won't also zoom in the navigation of the header. You're focusing on the text. You can choose your focus areas on a site so that if you're hovering over one part and zooming in there, all you're zooming in on is that font. You're not zooming in on everything else and breaking a website. You can also find a good level of font size that most people will read. And if you're pleasing 80% of users and making it accessible for 20% to figure it out anyway, you're doing all right. Size 14 font on a website is great. Size 12 is doable. Size 10 is too small. If it looks too small for you, it's definitely going to be too small for someone with accessibility needs. But like you said, you don't want to make it too big. If you make it too big, the design looks bad, and people without accessibility needs feel patronised. So make sure your headers are clear and make sure they are obviously headers. Don't put font in bold and assume people will know you mean that's important, because for people with visual problems, bold is nothing. For Google, bold is nothing. Mark it up as a H1, mark a H2 up as a H2, so I can navigate to the point. And if I can't read the size 12 font, if the header's clear enough and the call to action is obvious, I won't need to read the size 12 font.
Thank you. Oh, one more over there. Got time for one last question. Someone's turned my mic off. Thanks, Tommy. I'll shout louder.
Hello. Hi. Question. So you obviously gave some really good examples of like really functional, this paragraph tells me exactly what I'm going to find. How do you balance that with like brand tone of voice? So, you know, we don't go to, I don't know, candle companies to hear specifically about the candle I'm going to buy. You want to hear all the gumph about how it's crafted by scent artisans or whatever else. Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you balance that for this kind of stuff?
Well, it helps when I do it. I'm very good. But also, that's where things like blogs come in. You write a blog, it's got the keywords in that helps the page rank, and then the product page can still talk like the scent artisans and the nice stuff. It's also about balance. You want tone of voice. For example, the demolition therapy page I showed you a while ago still talks about electrical items. It still talks about electrical goods. It's got the keywords in there that they want to rank for, but it has fun with it. So it's finding a point of balance where you're saying enough that's interesting and enough that's going to tell a user, I can buy this candle, but it's also saying it in a nice way. So you choose your language. You choose language that says, this candle smells like carrots and broccoli. Delicious carrots and broccoli flavoured candle. But you also say it's a candle that will suit a fireplace, or it's a candle that burns for 24 hours. You can get those key phrases in at the same time as having fun with it. We find sometimes with people who come from a particular SEO background, they won't get that flair in. They'll get the keywords in there, but they won't get the tone. I come from an advertising writing background, so I'll go too much tone and not enough keywords. I have to find the balance myself. Fortunately, for the last 2 years, I've had balance drilled into my head every day when I send something over and say, Ash, this is really funny, but what the fuck's it talking about? So I'd say balance is the right thing for you.
Sadly, that is all we've got time for. It doesn't look like any other hands are up though, so that's perfect, right? Huge round of applause for Ash. Thank you. So we've come to the end of the evening. Oh, I should flick this back onto the nice Sheffield DM slide, shouldn't I? There we go, lovely. Yeah, it's 8 o'clock. I can't believe it. I just kicked the clicker everywhere. Look, I didn't stand on it. Big feet. This is a bit where I've made notes, because otherwise I'm going to forget everything I have to say. But first of all, I have to give a huge, huge thank you to all of our speakers. So a big round of applause, please, first for Charlotte. And another one for our fabulous panel, Jen, Adam, Emma, and Tom. And then, I know he's just gone, but another one for Ash. We're almost there, I promise. One more big round of applause for the Sheffield DM team, who have been amazing putting this on tonight. And of course, to all of you who have made it down here tonight, whether it's online or in person, you've made my little heart beat with happiness. It's been 3 years we've been running this. We've missed you for the last 18 months. So it's amazing to see you all. 45, 50, I think the head count was, of you here tonight. That's fucking incredible. Round of applause for you guys. I see you sneaking out. Thanks for coming. A few shout-outs now, just before I get off the stage and let you all go home. First, our sponsors. Evoluted, the company I work for, that was founded by Mr. Ashley Young, Carmack Sky in the back over there. A few sniggers. Evoluted, we're a full-service digital agency here in Sheffield. We've been in business for 15 years now. It's an incredible achievement. I know I'm bragging a little bit, but here we go. It's what I'm allowed to do. I'm up on stage, you're not. And like most agencies, I'm not going to sell you on coming and working with us, but you can if you'd like to. But we are hiring. Anybody out there who is a head of paid media or would like to be? I'm hiring. Come and speak to me. I'll bite your arm off at this point. I've been looking for someone for a while, and I'd love to find the right person. We are looking for developers of all sorts, back-end, front-end, bit of both. You're welcome at Evoluted. And finally, I know Deck in the back is desperate to find another SEO executive, so if you're an SEO and you fancy a new job, you fancy a change, come and have a chat. Second up, this is a little bit of self-indulgence here, which I'm hopefully going to get away with. Afterwork.gg used to be called Agency Esports. There we go. A little side project of mine, so please do indulge me. I'm building a small community of gamers. I know not everybody is a gamer, but some of us are. Professionals who play, if you will. And we run competitive gaming tournaments between companies to raise cash for charity. We did our first tournament back in June this year. We had 15 agencies taking part. It was awesome, really good fun. We played Call of Duty, we played some FIFA. People won cash for charity. We gave away £2,500 in all, which was awesome. And we're running another season. So that's coming up in October, November this year. So if you're a gamer, you play Call of Duty, you play some Splitgate, you play some Rocket League, come and have a chat with me. Check out afterwork.gg and maybe sign up. Next up, if you didn't already know, our venue, The Workstation, is a specialist business centre. I've got a great little bit here that I'm going to read out for you. Is a specialist business centre, and alongside Venue Hire has office space from small studios to large open plan offices for organisations based in the creative industries sector. It's home to around 60 full-time and 30 virtual tenants who are all treated to free social, networking, and health and well-being activities throughout the year, alongside discounts at the showroom cinema, which is awesome, and the cafe next door, so do go there. If you'd like to find out any more, the lights need to be on for this. Cara, you're going to have to wave, and people are going to have to squint, but she's over there near the back, second row from the back on your left. Go and chat with Cara if you are interested in coming to The Workstation. Next up, I promise you I'm almost done. There's just so many amazing people here tonight. Startup Weekend Sheffield. Andy, give me a woo! There we go. Andy's over there. Startup Weekend Sheffield, something that's dear to me. I spent 3 years when I kind of first moved up to Sheffield organising Startup Weekend Sheffield and Startup Weekend Derby. Basically, over 3 days from a Friday to a Sunday, people get together, form teams, bring their entrepreneurial ideas together, and basically spend those days kind of turning those ideas into an actual business. They then pitch it to a panel of judges at the end who kind of do their ratings, do a little bit of this and that, and crown a winner. But there's been some success stories that you may have heard of. Loot Crate is one of them. There's one I forget the name of now, but they do pet food in the US. That's really bad of me. You can see how long it's been. But it's an awesome weekend. If you've got a business idea and you want to turn it into a reality, you want to find co-founders, go and talk to Andy, because Startup Weekend Sheffield is going to be going live on Eventbrite for people to book tickets tomorrow. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Here we go, last bit. Finally, Sheffield DM, which you're all here for, will be returning very soon, November the 25th. Pop your calendars out, add it in now, because it's our 3rd birthday as well. Woo! Thank you. I shouldn't have to give you cues at this point. It's going to be an awesome evening. We're going to be holding it here again at the workstation in the Creative Lounge. Hope to see a lot of familiar faces that are here tonight come down. It's going to be a bit of a bumper night because it's our birthday as well. There may or may not be cake. Oh. Details are going to be going out soon, but make sure to follow us on Twitter at Sheffield DM to make sure you stay up to date with the details. And then, if you fancy speaking at one of these events, if you fancy bricking it like me up on the stage here and making lots of self-deprecative humour to get through the night, as well as a few Heinekens, do come and chat with one of us with the lovely lanyards on, and those of us without, like Jen, we didn't make her one. Sorry, Jen. We'll do you one when you pass your probation. Bugger. We'll make you one tomorrow. Yeah, come and talk to one of us tonight, or get in touch on Twitter, send us an email, hello@sheffielddm.co.uk. And finally, to let you all go, thank you once again for coming down tonight. You've all been amazing. It's an absolute pleasure to absolute, bloody hell, it's only 2 beers deep. It's an absolute pleasure to see you all. You're all fucking awesome. You rock. Thank you and good night.